call the meeting to order. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Howard, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Amaditz?
Here.
Mrs. Buckley?
Here.
Dr. Campbell?
Here.
Mrs. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Means? Here. Mr. Rose?
Here.
Mrs. Rule?
Here.
Mr. Spacuzza?
Present.
Mr. Sestovich?
Here.
All 9 members are present this evening.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Disk, our presentation on our high school project, please.
Thank you. As you can see, our demolition project is underway. We are on schedule with demolition. We hope to have all 8 buildings and foundations gone by May. That is the present tentative schedule. We have a scheduled meeting. The contractor has a major scheduled meeting a week from tomorrow, in which they will, no, excuse me, it's this Thursday, in which they will nail down the final completion schedule for the rest of the project. We can come back to you and give you pretty certain dates from here until Labor Day as to when everything's going to finish. But we should have that information all nailed down, finalized by the end of the week. So we'll get that to you as soon as we have it. As my report indicated, we are working with the high school staff on punch lists. Punch lists have been greatly reduced and a lot of issues have been resolved. There are new punch list items as the buildings use. We find things that weren't evident when we actually did the punch list. The high school's presenting us with those lists, and we keep those as part of the regular punch list. We're knocking those off as well. We've all talked about the HVAC system and how it typically is one of the last things to finish. This heat wave actually is giving us a chance to force it to air condition. So we're fortunate in that we're finding the issues with air conditioning now rather than in June. So, but they're working their way through them as well. So we continue to knock out punch list items. As far as a demolition schedule, there are 3 buildings right now, buildings 5, 6, and 7 that are basically gone, foundations as well. They're completely out of demolition is complete. There are 3 buildings, 1, 4, and 8 that we're down to foundations, and foundations are coming out right now as we speak. 2 buildings remaining haven't been touched yet, 2 and 3. And again, the plan right now is May to have all 8 of them gone. And as we've said in the past, we will let folks know when the stack is coming down. It's probably going to be during the week, we think. And it right now might be next week. So if that's in fact, don't put that in stone yet. We're still working our way through making sure the area around it is stable enough to drive large machines next to it. That is the issue. We need to be able to drive large machines next to it to actually come around and crunch away the bottom as if you would notch a tree. And that's how that stack is coming down. So the area right there where we have to drive has to be stable. There were large excavations there, large basements that we have to fill and compact to get to where we can do that. So that's what's going on there. Okay. As we talked about some things that are going on, there has been a very large hole dug, and I have some pictures for you. Unfortunately, I don't think you can see it. It's a water retention tank to protect the upper site as all that excavation takes place and all that earth is exposed, and as rain will wash silt and mud off that site, we need to protect it. So we're running all that material into a large hole and letting the silt settle out before it goes into the storm system. That's required by the county and the local municipality. But we took 20,000 cubic yards of material out of a hole, and you can't see it. So what I've done is I've made some photos of, we climbed up on the auditorium roof and took some pictures so you get a chance to see how big that hole is and where it is. It's substantial.
I'll say. Wow.
And that's the first of 2 holes that will be dug. The second hole is across the street where the old buildings were, and they will actually be the permanent underground retention systems that will go in place. And actually, I didn't know that, I wasn't sure when that contractor was going to start. They actually started last Friday, And if you drive past the building and look where the old swimming pool was, if you can get a sense of where that is, you'll see a big excavator and a large earth mover in there just moving large quantities of earth out as we dig that second hole, because those foundations are now out of the way and we can keep going. Okay? So the second hole is underway. I just thought, get an appreciation of how big that first hole is and where it is. A lot of the earth that was taken out of that hole, if you looked at the trailers, the area in front of the trailers is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and actually the trailers are now closed. And you folks have been very gracious to find a place downstairs for us to finish out the project, so we'll be close at hand for the next 8-9 months, okay? We appreciate that. Thank you very much. We talked once upon a time about the fact that we applied for a Green Globe certification. That is the Canadian equivalent to the LEED certification. We were just recently informed that we did in fact receive a Green Globe Level 3 certification, which is equivalent to LEED Gold. So the building has its certification. That will mean a great deal of energy conservation and reimbursement to the district, throughout the life of the bond issue. So, as I said, congratulations to everybody involved. That's a big. We were shooting for a LEED Gold. Excuse me. We were shooting for a Green Gold Level 2, which would have been LEED Silver. And when it all came together and all the things that we put into the program got us one level higher. So that's a real plus.
Dave?
Does the higher classification get us any extra reimbursement
No,
than
it
we
doesn't.
originally thought?
No, it doesn't.
Is it going to get us more in energy conservation and saving
Actually, it
dollars
should.
over the course of the year?
Some of the things that we're able to do with filters and HVAC systems are a higher level than what we originally anticipated. True. As in previous reports that I come before you, there are some change orders to talk about. There are actually 7 change orders in this month's activity. The first one is to a general contractor, which actually includes 9 items. The first is a couple concrete pads outside the back side of the building to house the kitchen condensing units. The MVP contracts included language to provide their own pads. Every one of them except the kitchen specs. So therefore, the kitchen contractor did not own these pads. We had Mascaro put them in at a price of $3,020.
Is that the same price that we would have been charged initially?
Yeah, we believe so, yes. One of the things that happens, Dave, when we bring a change order to you, we've done we take the change order to our Mascaro estimator. We go out in the market and look and see what those items would bring right now at bid day, and we hammer away at them until we're comfortable that number is very close to what a bid day price would be.
Okay.
Second item is a couple doors off the swimming pool had a lock set that had a thumb latch. These are doors that go into the girls and boys locker room. The inside of the door had a thumb latch instead of a cylinder, so that students could open the door from the inside with a thumb latch and come out onto the deck, and the instructor might not be there as yet, so that was a safety issue. So we modified the door and provided a couple cylinders, so we now have lock on both sides of the door, and the teacher can control that lock from the pool side, okay? And that was $623 for that whole amount of work. Floor drains, there were 4 classrooms down on the first floor that originally were supposed to have flooring. Because of the issues associated with the moisture in the flooring, we eliminated the flooring. Unfortunately, they were eliminated at a point in time when the floor drains were already in and set at a height to accept the flooring. So we had to cut a square around the drain in these 4 locations and patch it in so we didn't have a tripper at the drains. The drains still work. There was enough slope in the floor so that there's no issue with water draining. That worked, okay? The price for those 4 rooms was $1,452. As we get toward the end of the project, one of the things we need to do is have roof inspections so the warranty of the roof can be assured. As those inspectors came to the site, there were debris left on the roof from multiple contractors. In order for the inspector to give us the approval that we needed, we had to clear that. All those other contractors were gone. The only one was here was Mascaro, so they removed the debris, and we will back charge the appropriate contractors the $2,373 to clear the material off the roof. There are doors and frames throughout the building that, in the course of the 2.5 years of construction, were damaged by multiple contractors. Again, $8,618, and that will also be back charged to the appropriate contractors that were working on the site when the doors were damaged.
David,
Yes,
there's in the minutes that in the agenda that the public has, there's a typo. It's not 72, it's just 2.
Which one, Matt? Sorry.
The one previous, the agenda has 72,000, it's only 2,000. There's a typo.
They're removing debris off the road.
Our
Their
agenda
agenda
has-
says 72,000.
I'm sorry. Okay,
Everybody's hair was raising out there.
okay, all right.
We just saved $70,000.
I would too.
There'd be a line.
Okay. The next one is, there were 3 leaks in the HVAC system. These are piping leaks, not unusual. All the fittings that were soldered together in that building to have 3 leaks is not unusual. They did cause some ceiling tile and ceiling grid damage. $2,073 was spent by the general contractor, which will be assessed to the heating contractor. But here, the general contractor is being paid for the work. There was cleanup prior to the grand opening ceremony on the 18th of last month, and the district authorized Mascaro to spend some overtime and do some extra work, $1,650 to clean up some extra things in the building to get ready for that work. Patch of floor in the administrative conference room. There was a conference table set to go in a conference room. It was shown to go in the center of the room. When the room was measured, there wasn't anything else in there but just bare floors, and when it was measured, no one picked up that there was casework on one side of the room, so when we measured it, we really didn't measure to the center. We measured to the center of the actual room. When the casework went in, the center was at a different spot. So we had to cut a new hole in the floor, move the electric service, $1,061 to fix that issue. And last one for the general contractor is in the TV studio. The architectural drawings showed a large counter in there, theoretically to house all the sound and video equipment. Unfortunately, in the technology specs, that technology guy owned a whole counter to house all this stuff that had all the right compartments in it. So we took the counter back out, used it in the coach's office, but we had to patch the wall where it was anchored into the wall. So there's $572 to patch the wall. The total change order of the general contractor is $21,446. Next change order is to the food service contractor for 2 items. The first one is behind the ovens on the walls. The original specs called for a material called FRP, which is fiberglass reinforced plastic. In a lot of applications, it's a very good material. It's durable. It doesn't rust. In a kitchen, behind an oven that is going to have vapors and fumes and splash, it was concluded that was probably an inappropriate surface to keep clean, just because of the bumps on the surface would be a very difficult thing to keep clean. Typically behind those is stainless steel. That's what the hoods are made of. You can clean them, you can scrub them. So we switched all the FRP material behind all the ovens. You've been in the cafeteria, there's a large number of ovens in there. So $8,080 to change all that material to stainless steel. Stainless steel is not the cheapest material, but it will be there forever. It won't rust, it won't tarnish, it will clean. We think that was a very good change. Next item for food service. Throughout the building, there were locations where appliances were shown to be installed. The appliances were designed to be provided by the school district. That was the plan way back when. When the time came to purchase the appliances, after review that Matt made with several vendors, the food service vendor for our project was selected as the person to provide those appliances. So there were stoves, refrigerators, dishwashers, washers and dryers throughout the complex, in food service labs, in special ed rooms, for all sorts of reasons. A total of $25,945 worth of appliances. That's installed as well. They were responsible for installation as well as purchase. So the total change order of the food service contract, $34,025. Next change orders to the HVAC contractor. First item there is And you're going to hear this a couple times in my discussion tonight about inspectors as they come to the site and finding things that they needed to change on how they interpreted state regulations. There were mechanical rooms throughout the building where there was piping installed above electrical cabinets, which is really not allowed. So rather than remove the piping or remove the electrical cabinet and move it, there is a wrap, an additional plastic wrap that's approved to go on the pipe to, in the event of a leak, to keep the water from getting to the electrical gear. So throughout numerous mechanical rooms throughout the building, that pipe wrapping was applied as a way to meet the inspector's needs. $14,378 to the mechanical contractor. We are going to review this one with respect to looking to other contractors as far as coordination issues, and we're hopeful to recoup if not all, a good part of this back to the district. So we're working on that one right now. There was one of the appliances that was purchased by the district was a dryer in the kitchen area. Unfortunately, there wasn't an exhaust duct shown for it, so this was an exhaust duct installed by the HVAC contractor, $1,157.
Is there a possibility of that being reassigned to the appropriate individual or individuals because it was omitted from the initial drawings?
It was omitted from the initial drawings, period. It was not another contractor. It was an issue. It was a design issue.
Correct. So is there a possibility of us getting that looked at later to try to get some reimbursement back for that particular omission?
Maybe something the district would like to look at. Yes, Dave?
Yes.
There's an expansion tank piping issue. Again, this is another inspector came on site. Take me a long time to explain what expansion tank is in a system, but it just allows a system to breathe air as water is pumped through it. The expansion tanks have a pop-off valve on top. It's like your hot water heater at home, have a pop-off valve. The designers designed those pop-off valves to go back to the tanks that replenish the system, mainly because these systems have glycol in them. Good idea to recycle it. The inspector said you can't do that. That pop-off valve needs to be piped by itself, each tank, to a drain. Okay? So that's the way they had to be modified after the systems were already in place. $5,295 to accommodate that inspector's interpretation of how those pop-off valves needed to be
Is that going to
piped.
cost us more to run the system then, too?
If in fact the pop-off valve opens and discharges to drain, you're going to need to add material and you'll lose the glycol, okay? Enough said.
It's one inspector's opinion to another.
Right.
We could have got a different inspector that said that
May have
the
had a
way we
different
had it was
opinion.
fine, and it's been designed that way on other jobs.
The last item to the HVAC contractor is in the gym walkway in the southwest corner. There are ducts up above the walkway that feed rooms on either side. One of the ducts, somebody ran into it, put a dent in it. Dented ductwork is typically not an issue, typically because it's buried or you can't see it. This was right out in front of everybody at that walkway. So we decided for $746 to change a large piece of duct just because it was right in front of everybody's view. We're going to try to determine who may have dented it and work through there, but right now we don't know who may have dented it, okay? The total change order to the HVAC contractor, $21,578. Electrical contractor, which there are 6 items. Again, an elevator inspector came to the site. We had an elevator design that once upon a time was improved by the elevator division. The inspector comes on site, interprets the rules a little differently than the designers who reviewed the drawings, or it may be that I don't want to put the total black hat on these inspectors, but regulations change. These drawings were approved in 2008, early 2009. Now at 2012, when an inspector shows up, there may have been a minor change in something. He's got to inspect per current regulations. So I can't put the black hat totally on them. It could be that regulations change. But there were smoke detectors, heat detectors, and pit lights that had to be modified to meet what this inspector interpreted as current regulations. $5,245 to string new conduit, run wiring in the elevator shafts to accommodate this. Again, it's an inspector's interpretation. There was a classroom A401 where there was several electrical outlets that were shown in areas where casework would cover them up. We had to move them, $910. And there was a piece of equipment that came to the kitchen that was shown on the electrical drawings to be 208 single phase. When it showed up, it actually was 208 three-phase. So the wiring inside, we could reuse the conduit. You had to pull the service out and pull a new set of wires in that actually had a neutral in it to accommodate three-phase. So it's only set $378 to do it because we were able to reuse the raceway. There were microwaves. Again, appliances provided by the food service contractor were microwaves in the Family Consumer Science room. When we first bought them, it was thought that they were not going to be vented to the outside. Turned out they needed to be vented to the outside. The electrical contractor put in the plugs before we made the decision that they had to be vented. They were put in a place where the vent had to run, so we had to move them. $834 to move 7 electrical outlets, okay? And next one for the electrical contractor, up in the pool seating area on the front of that bulkhead. Recall we talked about installing 3 locations where we could potentially put either TVs or something else in the future. The cost to get the conduit up there, put the boxes in for the electrical contractor was $1,176. And you are aware that the center one right now is being used for that scoreboard we put up. So we actually used one of them, and it could very well be in the future you use the other ones. So they're there for you to use. And the last one, the electrical contractor, is to install the electronic bulletin boards that were put in the corridors. Again, these were devices that were to be provided by the district, and it was chosen to have the electrical contractor install this. Actually, there were 2 locations of the 6, am I correct? 9, excuse me. There were 7 locations shown. 2 locations did not have electrical outlets. So this cost of $604 is to put 2 electrical service in 2 locations where they were missed. Total cost, the electrical contractor change order, $9,158. Technology construction, there were 3 items on their change order. First one was to provide some equipment and labor to install a device to allow people to get on the all-call on a cell phone instead of having to use a house phone. Very, very good idea, very useful kind of a way to get on the all-call. Second one is that scoreboard that was installed in the center part, the technology contractor actually pulled the low voltage wire in to make it run, $591 to do that. And to, again, those TVs that were installed were decided to have the technology contractor install them, all 9 of them, for $5,988. So the total cost to change order the technology contractor, $9,296. Data service construction, there were 2 items. One is a credit. There was tax applied to their previous change order, which we recouped. And the second one for the data systems contractor is to replace 2 wireless access devices that disappeared, $1,657. So the data systems contractor total is $1,507. And the 7th and last change order is to the asbestos abatement contractor. When we got started, there was additional work associated with the asbestos work, $7,590. Those are the 7 change orders for this month. Took a while. I appreciate your patience. Are there any questions?
Yeah, quick question on the asbestos abatement. We still have 2 buildings that are untouched.
And they were the major abatement ones, and they're done.
And they're done.
The asbestos abatement is 100% complete. Contractor signed off and gone. And we're clear. Everything we have not found in the demolition of the other 6 buildings. We have not found anything else in the way of fittings that we didn't accommodate through the original this contract and this change order. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to run it as a combined meeting, so I need an intent to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Move the adoption.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 9-0. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of February 23rd, 2012.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 9-0. I need to announce executive sessions held March 14th, 2012 for personnel, other legal matters, and to receive information, and March 20th, 2012 for personnel, other legal matters, and to receive information. Staff report, Mrs. Rose.
Thank you for once again giving me this opportunity to share the following items of good news about our students and staff with you this evening. Thanks to everyone who cast their votes for the People's Choice Awards during our February 18th community open house for the new Bethel Park High School. If you recall, our high school art students exhibited several outstanding pieces of their original artwork and asked the public to vote on their favorite pieces. The votes have been counted, and senior Lizzie Nolan earned first place for her charcoal hands drawing and also second place for Military Man. Senior Audrey Miller earned the third place award for her drawing of Audrey Hepburn. All of the artwork was terrific, and we thank the art department for coordinating the exhibit. Bethel Park High School senior Jessica Walker was pleasantly surprised when she was summoned to the guidance office and presented with a check for $113,400 from Seton Hill University. This check represents full tuition for the next 4 years at Seton Hill. Jessica was one of 10 high school students to receive this award from Seton Hill Scholars Program. She will major in English and creative writing in the fall. Congrats to Jessica and especially to her parents. Several members of our high school forensics team have qualified for the National Catholic Forensics League Grand National Tournament, which will be held in Baltimore over the Memorial Day weekend. Congratulations to Shannon Fagan, Jared Single, Rebecca Rogers, John Pike, Madeline Balzerini, Lucy Cedar-Franzek, and Jordan Todd. Molly Graham, Julie Kletz, and Jamie Kavrak have been selected as the first alternates for that program. Congratulations to 18 Bethel Park High School DECA students who were finalists in the 2012 DECA State Career and Development Conference by finishing anywhere between first and sixth place in their respective events. 9 students also earned medallion awards for being among the top scorers in either the test or role play events after the first day of competition. Congratulations to first place winners Brett Reese, David Black, and Thomas Bailey. They will join 9 other DECA students at the International Career and Development Conference next month in Salt Lake City, Utah. Our adaptive physical education students at the high school are working together to travel 218 miles using their stationary bicycles, treadmills, and elliptical machines. 218 miles is the equivalent of traveling from Bethel Park to Hershey, PA, better known as the sweetest town in the world. They're excited about their goal and especially enjoy using the recumbent bicycles and elliptical machines to help them reach their goal. Our high school senior English students are taking advantage of the large group instruction room and the new technology in the high school to take a virtual field trip to the Folger Shakespeare Library. This is the first time we've attempted to do something like this, and the students prepared for the virtual tour of the library by studying the classic plays Macbeth and Hamlet and forwarding their questions to the library. The Post-Gazette featured this activity in their March 15th issue. Our thanks to English teacher Charles Youngs for coordinating this meaningful learning opportunity. 5 of our high school musicians successfully auditioned and played in the Pennsylvania Music Educator Association's Region Band Concert. Congratulations to Lucas Beaver, Travis Butler, Mark Debsky, Jonathan Griffith, and Mary Hannah Swaney. Congratulations to Bethel Park High School junior Stephen Barnhart, who recently accepted an invitation to play the viola in the National Association for Music Educators All-National Orchestra Concert, which will be held in June at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. You can see Stephen and 120 of our Bethel Park High School string musicians in a special concert that will be held on Thursday, March 29th at 7 p.m. in our new high school auditorium. Professional rock violinist Bridget Bibbins will be on stage performing 70s classic rock songs with our high school musicians in a show entitled Electrify Your Strings. Our students will not only be playing traditional string instruments, but they'll also be using an electric string quartet consisting of 2 violins, a viola, and a cello that were purchased with a generous grant from the Bethel Park Community Foundation. Tickets for the March 29th performance are $5 for adults and $3 for students and senior citizens, and they can be purchased at the door during the night of the show. Ms. Bibbins has played with many rock and pop acts, including the Trans-Siberian Orchestra and John Mayer. She'll be spending the day working closely with our high school musicians to prepare them for this special evening of music. We hope all of you can join us that evening. Several of our Independence Middle School Student Council students spend their lunch periods once a week writing letters of support and encouragement to American servicemen stationed in Iraq and Afghanistan, and collecting comfort items such as coffee and chapstick to send to them. 3 of these students, 8th graders Macy Hall and Natalie Lalama and Grace Brugman, put together a terrific workshop that they shared with other schools at the Pennsylvania Association of Student Councils State Conference at South Fayette. I had the opportunity to watch the students prepare for their practice run-through of their presentation that's designed to encourage other students to support our troops. They did a fantastic job. Joining me for the practice run-through were board members Mr. Rose and Mrs. Buckley, and we all came away from the presentation feeling very proud of our students and their efforts. I hope that they'll be joining us at the April board meeting to do a presentation for our audience as well. Neil Armstrong Middle School recently concluded its 14th annual Battle of the Books with the students on the alliteration alien teams coming in first place in this year's competition. Members of the winning team were Jessie Scarlett, Aubrey Stewart, Grace Evans, Casey Mack, and Veronica Johns. Congratulations to all of the students who competed because, as I've said before, anytime you read, you are a winner. Memorial 2nd graders in Mrs. Shaw's room worked very hard to put together PowerPoint presentations of what they would do if they were elected principal of the school. The students put a great deal of thought and effort into their presentations, with many suggesting the usual campaign promises such as abolishing homework, enacting a longer recess, and serving free ice cream for lunch every day. But several of the students came up with some out-of-the-box suggestions of what they would do if they were elected principal, including replacing the water in the drinking fountains with soda pop, giving everyone free plane tickets to Hawaii, and installing a swimming pool on the playground. The students did their presentations for their families, and at the conclusion of the presentations, everyone cast their votes. In a very closely contested race, it was determined that Matthew Kurtz will have the opportunity to work alongside Mr. Chalice as principal for a day. No word yet on the groundbreaking for the new swimming pool at the school. Seriously, this is just another great example of how our students are combining today's technologies with their traditional presentation skills. We thank Mr. Chalice for supporting their efforts. Mrs. Varley's kindergarten classes at Washington recently set up a lemonade stand to benefit Alex's Lemonade Stand, an organization created to raise funds to find a cure for childhood cancer. The kindergarten students sold lemonade for $0.25 a cup and raised $238 for their cause. Last week, several of our high school swimmers and divers participated in the state swimming and diving championships. As part of the festivities surrounding the competition, the Pennsylvania Swimming Hall of Fame inducted 3 new members into the hall, including Bethel Park High School girls swimming coach Bill Kennedy. Coach Kennedy has been coaching in the Bethel Park School District since 1978, and his teams have amassed an overall record of 259 wins and only 41 losses on their way to winning 7 WPIAL titles and 2 state titles. Our heartiest congratulations go to Coach Kennedy for this well-deserved recognition. And that concludes what may well be my last good news report, as I will be passing the torch on to our new directors of secondary and elementary education in the future. So, Dee and Janet, I'm passing the torch to you. Thank you. And I think that was a surprise announcement to them.
Thank you, Mrs. Rose. I don't see anybody here from student government. I'm going to assume they didn't know we combined our meeting this week, this month. PTA, PTO Council. And I know, Donnie, you took it last time, so we can just skip it. That's okay. Solicitor's report.
I have a written report from the board.
Thank you, sir. Committee reports. Mr. Sestich, we had a facilities committee meeting.
Facilities committee meeting on March 1st. On the agenda, we talked about a lot of items, but in particular, we talked really about the new fields up at the high school. We also discussed the new sign that's going to be out in front of the school. A little bit more about the concession stand that may be on the upper field between the baseball and the football area. We also talked about things like murals in the gymnasium and the pool area, and some HVAC projects up at NAMS. To bring everybody up to date here, we have scheduled another facilities meeting for April 17th, Matt, is that right? And that one will be specifically to discuss the new fields at the high school, both the upper level, which of course is under construction, and the replacement of the fields that were on the lower section once we get the big drainage tanks in there and get the ground level. We had two baseball fields and a football field on the lower area, and of course nothing on the top. We're laying out the plans for that now. There's been a lot of emails and discussions going on about whether we want to have turf, grass, how many sets of lights we need up there. We're doing the background work now to have information for that meeting. A couple questions that we need to address, and we've sent out information to the municipality, is can we put lights on the upper field, and what does it take to do that? One question that came up is, since we didn't have lights up there before in our great municipality, do we need a variance to put up lights? Okay, we know we have lights in the lower fields, and we probably could replace those and perhaps have them grandfathered in, but we're doing all that background work right up front. Now, we're also looking at getting information from the athletic department on determining the athletic demands for all the fields. What do we need to support the educational goals of our sports program, recognizing it's integral to the education of our kids. At that meeting, we will be sending an invitation to the major stakeholders, and this will be not only the athletic department, but all the rec groups, the municipality, the representatives from the municipality, and the rec department. And of course, all the booster groups are invited to attend BBA, and I'm not going to rattle off all the names, but we'd like everybody to be here. Again, April 17th. We're probably going to run that meeting more in an open format so that everybody can participate actively in the conversation, so we get a full pulse of what's needed in the community and compare that to what we can handle and where we can go with restrictions from the municipality. So again, basically we're going to have a meeting to recap all that background information and make it available again April 17th.
Thank you. Probably start that at 7 p.m.?
7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Donna?
Yes, sir.
There will be a finance committee meeting Thursday night. One item on the agenda, the budget for next year. We're still a couple months away from looking for an approval date, but we want to see where we are and where it stands at this point.
That's this Thursday, the 22nd, and that one's at 7 o'clock also,
7 o'clock
right?
on Thursday.
Thank you. Any public comments on agenda items? Agenda items only.
Hi, good evening. Steve Husser, 5600 Library Road. I just had in the curriculum committee on the second page here, the fourth one, the Wilson Language Training Corporation contract. I just would ask if, like when you discuss that here in a minute, if you could just like explain that a little bit more. Like I just kind of want to understand, like, is this just the training that all staff members are getting? Is it curriculum come along with it? Is it geared more towards special education students or all students, you know, for kids that are struggling with learning, et cetera? I just kind of was interested in learning more about what exactly that is. And I'd also read a little bit about like the Wilson program, and one of the concerns that I saw raised about it is that while it's really good with like lower level reading components like phonological, phonemic awareness, word decoding, phonics, that kind of stuff, that it's weaker in higher level components of reading like vocabulary comprehension. And I just kind of wanted to see, just if there are any comments or explanations of how it came to the determination that is the best, reading curriculum for our district. So I'd appreciate if you could do that at that point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on agenda items only? Seeing none, we'll move into our business items. Under Curriculum Committee, we have 4 items. Does anyone have any questions on any of these items? I know Mr. Amaditz is probably happy. We are starting school again after Labor Day.
Yeah, how about
He's always looking for that.
How about that? Yeah, that's a nice thing. I don't have any questions on that particular item, but I do have questions on number 4 whenever we get down to that.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
My questions dealt with the type of protocol and dealing with the 2 protocol interventions, and I'm just wondering if at this particular time, if it's, I think from our reading that we're planning on having the people from the company come in and do the instructions. Is that correct? They will be coming in doing. Are substitutes going to be needed for all our instructors during that time? How's that going to be handled? Is it going to be done in one time? Or are we going to be doing it over a few sections? Could you explain that a little bit? And then I guess as well, if you could just give a little bit of rationalization
Okay.
on why
and I'm going to ask Dr. Stark for a little bit of backup, but I will tell you that this program is a part of something that we've started 2 years ago. We purchased part of the materials. One of the requirements of the Department of Education under the response to intervention that we are required to implement under differentiated instruction to meet all of the requirements under PDE is that we have what we call Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 interventions. This program will help to, these 2 programs will help to address the Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions that we're required to have in place for our struggling readers. So indeed, it won't address all of those higher order things because these are for our lowest functioning students who need those deeper interventions, the more restrictive interventions. Dr. Stark, I know I've probably forgotten some fundamental things, so if you want to throw that in there.
No, you did just fine.
Thank you.
You did just fine. In recent years, there have been agencies that have set about to examine from a research basis how some of these interventions are performed. You can have research-based strategies, and then when they call it a protocol intervention, that really means that they've taken the intervention and established the doses and materials and protocols for exactly how it's delivered, and then they've researched that to see how it actually works with children. And when we purchased with the ARA funds a couple of years ago, when we made choices and purchased those interventions, we chose the ones that were on all the best practices list. The University of Florida, the University of Oregon, they publish evaluations of those interventions, and Wilson Reading is at the top. It's a very intensive program. There's an overview, several-day overview for 30 individuals, and then there are 5 selected teachers who will actually be trained over the course of a year to deliver one of the most intensive interventions that's out there. It's based on Orton Gillingham, which is a multisensory approach. We've had requests in our special education department over the years to provide Orton Gillingham training for some of our children who are really struggling, and this is going to fill that need. But it is, as Nancy said, it's a level 2, Tier 2, and Tier 3. It will address our Title I readers, Foundations will, and some of our other interventions, and Wilson Reading is directed as a Tier 3 for learning support.
And will these 5 individuals then that are trained, will they be able to train other staff members on the use of this, or will they not be able to do that? And again, are there going to be substitutes needed for these instructors?
There will be, yes, there will be substitutes.
Is that included in that price that we're paying, or is that going to be up and above on that?
That would be an addition.
That will be out of our staff development fund.
Okay.
We can also use some of our initial in-service days at the beginning of the year to do the large group training. So we'll be able to do some of those kinds of things,
And will
hopefully.
those 5 individuals be able to train others
No.
after they are trained?
As a matter of fact, we purchased 4 interventions with those funds, and 3 of the 4 were trainable by the IU. The vendors and developers of the interventions actually trained the IU, who can come out and continue to train staff members. Wilson Reading holds everything very close to the chest. They are very specific in how their interventions are delivered. They will not allow anyone else to do the training, and they will not permit, it's not a train-the-trainer model, although other individuals who can be exposed to the materials can use them as valued materials in other ways, but they won't be delivering that Tier 3 protocol intervention.
And we're to understand this is applicable to at least 300 students? It's written here?
Our Title I readers are readers that work with the reading specialist in the 5 elementary buildings. We average around 300 students, and we pick and choose which interventions are most appropriate for children based on what their needs are. And these are going to be 2 of the array of interventions that we have available to offer to our kids.
One other question, is there specific modalities that we can use to test whether these students have achieved and how much and how quickly they've achieved?
Absolutely, absolutely. Through the program itself, we'll be able to measure progress, and then we do progress monitoring throughout the year on these targeted students on a regular basis. And because of the platform that we're using for storing our data, it will also provide a record for us so that we'll be able to tell which interventions worked for which students. And Dee, I apologize, the name of the program that we're using for
RTIM Direct.
RTIM Direct, thank
Direct.
you. We'll be able to track those kids over multiple years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on curriculum items? Seeing none, Mrs. Buckley, I will turn those over to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cook. There are 4 items under curriculum this evening. Would anyone like any of those held out? Hearing none, I move item number 1, which is the 2012-23 school calendar. Number 2, the local holidays, and those specific dates would be December 26th, 27th, 28th, December 31st, and March 29th, 2013. Number 3 is school-sponsored overnight educational activity. Number 4, the Wilson Language Training Corporation contract.
Second.
Items 1 through 4 under Curriculum Committee have been moved by Mrs. Buckley and seconded by Mr. Rose. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those items carry 9-0. Personnel Committee. Does anyone have any questions under Personnel Committee this evening?
Ms. Cook, I just have a question on number 2 when we were talking about our extra duty responsibility program.
Yes.
I know in the past we have set limits and had limits on the amount of participants we needed, and we decided at that juncture then whether we would hire coaches or not. And I'm just wondering if and I know specifically we did this for the indoor track. That is the one thing I can remember, whether we're going to put another coach on or not. Are there limits that we have to follow with our coaches? Again, how many coaches, how many participants we have in our particular sports? I look down and I see a lot of different coaches for certain sports, and it just makes me wonder how many we are allowed to have. And in a time when it comes down for a budget and looking for dollars to cut out, just makes me wonder if a certain number of participants for.
Is there a rationale between number of participants of a sport and number of coaches necessary for that particular sport is what I believe the question is.
Yeah, we always go with, I don't know if there's a specific number associated with coach per athlete or coach per club participant. We usually do that on a case-by-case basis with the input from the high school principal, the athletic director, and any club sponsor. The clubs definitely have that limit that we have, that is built in into I think is it 10 or
10 participants to
so
have
we
that
have that
club.
limit, but we don't have that with the athletic area. So as far as reassessing that. At this time, I'm not sure that given our current contract situation, if that's possible.
I can tell you in the past, we've had a few sports where we couldn't field a team, and we eliminated that position and that team for that year.
Correct. We recently did that with
Right.
the girls volleyball.
Correct.
And some of those are contractual, as you know, under current contract.
I just could not recall if there was a certain number of participants, and I see a few of the sports that are listed that have a lot.
Right.
A lot, and I just was curious about the rationale that went into that at this particular time.
That was a good question.
Mrs. Cook?
Yes, sir.
I have one. Under, in all these categories, we have a lot of coaches, a lot of assistants. Looking at the list at IMS, we have a middle school athletic director. What would be the function of a middle school athletic director if we have a full-time athletic director who's supposed to cover the entire district?
That position was created, I think, about 10 years ago. He is a part-time athletic director. He has responsibilities for helping to coordinate the middle school schedules, coordinates with the athletic director to help conduct those things. But that's been about a 10-year long position.
Right now in the teacher's contract?
Yes.
Target.
Any other personnel questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Rule, I'll turn that over to you.
Okay, there are 10 items under personnel. Are there any that anyone would like me to hold out? If not, I move that we approve items 1 through 10. Item 1 being approval of substitutes, 2, approval of extra duty responsibility program, approval of tuition reimbursement, acceptance of a resignation, approval of leave of absence, approval of a temporary acting assistant principal. That one will be William Wells, temporary acting assistant principal at the high school at his per diem rate plus an additional $100 a day to fill the temporary vacancy by the leave of absence of Cheryl Graff. Appointment of personnel, approval of temporary special education paraprofessional position, approval to extend assistant to the superintendent, finance and operations contract, and 10 would be change of assignment, and that would be for administration, Robert Garvey from grade 5 teacher at Neil Armstrong to assistant principal at Neil Armstrong, and an annualized salary of $72,000 to fill the vacancy created by the change of assignment of Michael Brookie. The effective date, what is their effective?
To be determined.
To be determined.
Second.
Thank you. Items 1 through 10 under Personnel Committee have been moved by Mrs. Rule and seconded by Mr. Sustich. All in favor of these items say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those items carry 9-0.
You might wanna have Rob
Congratulations
stand
to,
up there.
yes, I was going to say congratulations to Mr. Howard on the extension of his contract, and we might have Mr. Garvey stand, an excellent interview that he had with us this evening, and welcome aboard to the principalship. Okay, Facilities and Services Committee. Do we have any questions on any of the, I guess, change orders tonight are on there?
Just a reminder, everybody, change orders for the general contractor, DC 039.4. The amount shown here is $72,373.
Right.
Incorrect. It's $2,373.
We got that one corrected, right. Thank you.
I would also just ask that if we could ask Mr. Howard to add on to the list of our items, the two items that I brought up during the discussion with Mr. Disk about the items that were admitted.
Oh, yes. I think
from
there
the
were about
drawings.
3 items maybe that were actually brought up that should go on to that list.
And we'll have that presentation to the board probably April, May-ish.
Okay.
I wrote them down.
You got them. Okay, very good. Any other questions?
I have a
Jim?
question about the items being declared unused and unnecessary.
There are a large number of computing.
Okay, wait, that's next one. We're on Facilities and Services Committee.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
Anything else on that one? We're just on 7 and 8 under
Okay.
Facilities and Services, item 1, change orders.
Number 10.
Anything else? I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Sestich.
Thank you. There are 4 items under Facilities and Services. Anybody, any items held out separately?
I only have one item.
Yeah, just one.
I'm sorry, one item.
Okay.
I'm jumping ahead here.
There are 4 subs, but it's one item.
He's got a hidden agenda.
I know.
Okay, then I'm not going to hold anything up.
Sounds good.
I'd
It's
like to
one
move
item.
the following change orders. Change order, again, I won't recap all the details. GC 039 to Mosquero Construction in the amount of $21,446.21. Change order FS 002 to Trimark SS Kemp in the amount of $34,025. Change order HV 011 to Scalise Industries Corporation in the amount of $21,578.19. Change order EL 019 to Callista Electric in the amount of $9,158.51. Change order TE 011 to Westmoreland Electric in the amount of $9,296.02. Change order DS 002 to IP Logic in the amount of $1,507.40. And finally, change order 001, additional asbestos work to asbestos abatement construction in the amount of $7,590.
I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Item 1 under Facilities and Services Committee has been moved by Mr. Sestich and seconded by Mr. Spacuzza. All in favor of this item, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That item carries 9-0. Finance Committee. Now, Mr. Means, time for your question.
Yes, the large number of computing equipment that's going to be declared unused and unnecessary. I'd like to know what's going to be done with that.
Typically, we've donated that to Goodwill in southwestern Pennsylvania after we take the hard drives out and drill holes in them, and then we dispose of the hard drives elsewise.
That's all.
Okay. Any other questions under Finance Committee?
Ms. Cook?
Yes, sir.
On number 11, purchase of portable radios. I guess this is for you, Mr. Ryer, mainly. I'm just wondering if there's perhaps maybe a more efficient and cost-efficient way for our maintenance staff to communicate with other than those radios. I don't know, with the days of cell phones, would cell phones be a better way, or is there another way out there that would be a little less expensive and more efficient to use?
He asked you the question.
To the extent that I can discuss cell phones, we pay about $10 a month for every extra cell phone. Now that number isn't hard and fast because we have it set up, the non-smart cell phones are set up on Verizon family plans because we found that's the most economical way. So I think it's for every 5 cell phones you have a master phone, which costs more than that, $10 a month. But it's a monthly recurring charge. And we do have some areas of the district where cell coverage isn't the greatest, namely Neil Armstrong, some areas in Memorial, and of course the lower levels of the new high school. We're working correctly lower levels of the new high school, and if that's successful, we may consider the other areas as well. But right now, two-way radios with a repeater provide better coverage and more instantaneous coverage than cell phones do. That's fine. And probably at a lower long-term cost.
That's what I was looking at. I was looking at the cost issue as well as the effectiveness, and if it would have been so much more to go for more effective, and this way worked. I just wanted to know. That's all. Thank you.
Can I ask a question also? Is that then when a radio is used, does everybody hear the broadcast of the message?
Yes.
So that really doesn't allow for a cell phone unless you have like a Nextel or something where they have the radio feed.
Correct.
So if Brandon wanted to do an all-call or contact a couple staff members, he could do that, or he could, and be able to contact them.
That's fine.
And in the end, we did feel this was a cheaper solution. These radios last a pretty long time.
Good.
Any other questions on the Finance Committee? I will turn it over to you, Mr. Rose.
There are 12 items? 11 items, 12 items, under Finance Committee.
13.
13 items. I'll get them all. Anybody like any of those held out for separate vote? Hearing none, I move the following items. March 2012 salaries and bills. Number 2, February 2012 financial report. Number 3, budgetary transfers. Number 4, purchase of equipment for control booth for small theater at the high school, and those funds are from the construction fund account. Approval of student services contract. Number 6, awarding of the custodial maintenance supply bids. Number 7, adoption of the AIU resolution. And number 8, AIU program of services budget. Number 9, information technology 2012-2013 service and maintenance contracts under the E-rate. Number 10, a list of items declared unused and unnecessary. Number 11, purchase of portable radios. Number 12, approval to participate in Western Pennsylvania Electricity Consortium that is operated by the intermediate unit, includes a lot of other schools, and is strictly to reduce our cost. And number 13, a maintenance feasibility study with Hayes Design Group to provide a new maintenance facility feasibility study with an estimated cost not to exceed $5,800. I move those 13 items.
Second.
Items 1 through 13 under Finance Committee have been moved by Mr. Rose and seconded by Mrs. Buckley. All in favor of these items, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Those items carry 9-0. Mr. Spicuzzo, would you take other for me this evening, since there wouldn't be any discussion on this item?
Especially since I don't have a microphone tonight.
Sorry, I didn't know you didn't.
There's one item under other student agreements. Really not much else we can
Just
say.
move it.
Let's just move the student agreements.
Second.
Item 1, student agreements, has been moved by Mr. Spicuzza and seconded by Mr. Rose. All in favor of this item, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That item carries 9-0. Public comments on anything you wish to address the board on.
Hi, I'm Brian Georges, Bethel Park. I'm not here to address you on an agenda item, like many of you probably thought, but I appreciate all the cooperation that we seem to be getting on the fields work, so appreciate that. But I'd like to bring up something that I don't see on the agenda and I haven't seen on it for some time, and that is the teacher contract. My wife's a teacher at Neil Armstrong, and the stalemate needs to stop. We need some sort of resolution to this. We're wondering month to month what's going to happen with this contract. There doesn't seem to be any movement on either side. So I would like to know, and I know this isn't an open question for him, so if you could let me know off the record sometime if any of you want to talk, what's being done by the school board in the negotiations? What middle ground have you come to? What have you attempted to do to stop the stalemate? Many of you, not all of you, but many of you have had your kids taught by my wife, right? So we as a family who have kids in elementary, middle school, and high school here, my in-laws live in Bethel Park. As I told many of you at the facilities meeting, I am your constituent. I have vested interest in every part of Bethel Park, and I would like to see this teacher contract solved very quickly. And I think that the school board needs to bend and meet some middle ground. The public isn't hearing what's going on from either group, and there needs to be some involvement with, I think, with people like me and others who want to get this solved. So I invite you to contact me because, you know, we'd like to have a contract settled like Mr. Howard got. Thank you very much.
Well, Brian, I just missed your street address.
5757 Happy Hills Drive.
Thank you.
Not very happy right now.
Thank you.
It's Anita Podacar, Mapleview Drive. as I remember, in some of the reasoning for the new high school was to cut down on employees. We're coming into the budget time, and hope that you will fulfill the pledge that it would definitely save our employee list. I don't know how far you are in cutting, but we haven't gotten any information about it, because that was one of the selling points, that you wouldn't need as many people working in Bethel Park. And the other thing is, I've heard from a couple of families that their children have been complaining about the stairwells. And I feel badly because they're evidently crowded, because I know we had come here at some of the meetings and thought that the width of the stairwells would not be adequate for the high school population, and can't do anything about it now. And I don't want to say we told you so, but we've been hearing comments to that effect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Mr. Woodburn, and I'm here in regard to school tax penalty. I'm asking for some leniency. Unfortunately, my school tax, I bought the house last year, and the County of Allegheny sent me my tax notice, as it naturally would do, which I paid the tax. Eventually, I got the notice from Bethel Park Borough on the borough tax, but it came to me late, saying I was delinquent on the tax. The reason being is they sent the tax notice to Van Nuys, California, and my Bank of America is held in the state of Washington, and I haven't any escrow account on the property or on the mortgage. So I went immediately when I got the delinquent notice, I went to Jordan Tax to pay the taxes, went up there, explained the situation, and the gentleman was very kind. He said, okay, I'll make a call and see if we can waive the penalty, which he did. Inadvertently, they erased the penalty, and I paid the tax. About approximately January 15th or in there about, I got a notice from the school district about the delinquent tax. Here again, they sent the notice to Van Nuys, California. I don't deal with Van Nuys, California, and I explained to you that I don't have an escrow account. I contacted the school district. I was told to try to contact Mr. Garazzi. And after a few calls, I did speak with him or his secretary, and she said, we do not waive penalties on school tax. I said, well, it's no fault of mine that the notice didn't come to me. When the notice came, it was late. So there was a board meeting last month, March 17th. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend it. I had to be out of town. About a week after that, I got a notice from the attorney's office, Emilio Brungo, and so forth, and they have their penalty on there. Now I have a $500 penalty on my tax notice, which I never received. That's why I'm here tonight, asking for leniency, asking you to waive. I know you can't waive the attorney's fee. Attorneys are attorneys. But I'm asking for leniency to ask the borough or the school district to waive my penalty. And I thank you so very much for your consideration.
I'm going to let our attorney explain the situation to you.
We certainly understand where you're coming from on this, and I'll talk to you in a little more detail about it. Unfortunately, our hands are tied. We collect tax under a statute called the Local Tax Collection Law. And that's a state law that tells you how you collect your taxes and so forth. The section that deals with your situation specifically says that
failure to receive notice does not relieve the taxpayer from payment of taxes. The theory behind that being, whether it's right or wrong, so don't kill the messenger, I'm just reading what the law says, is if you don't get a tax bill, you have the obligation to go run down the tax bill and pay for it. Well, so, and I'm not going to, I understand, because we run into these situations, and that's why I said I'm certainly willing to sit and talk to you a little bit more about this, but we're really governed by what Section 5511 of the Local Tax Enabling Act tells me that I can do or can't do. And the Act specifically says this: failure to receive notice should not relieve any taxpayer from the payment of any taxes imposed by any taxing district, and such taxpayer shall be charged with his taxes as though he had received the notice. That's what the law says.
Well, at the time, I went to Jordan, I paid the tax at Jordan, and I asked him about the school district. He said, we have nothing to do with the school district. He said, you have to go to Centrax in Bridgeville. I went the next day to Centrax in Bridgeville. They said, we're no longer collecting the school tax for Bethel Park. So, I really ran up a dead-end street there.
Well, let me talk to you a little bit more about this, but I'm just saying to you, that's certainly, you'd like to be able to do it, but unfortunately I'm governed by what the law says I have to do.
Well, due consideration will be fine, thank you.
Mr. Woodburn, I missed your address. What's your address?
2583 North Lakewood.
Thank you. They'd have to.
Hi, I'm Joe McKittrick, 5325 Park Avenue. And first thing I wanted to say was I went to the open house at the high school. I think you did a great job and really appreciate you coming in under budget. I was here to talk about the facilities at the high school regarding lights and turf, but now I understand Mr. Sustucci had a meeting on April 17th, and I have kids that do soccer and tennis, so that's why I'm very interested in it, and I'll come to the April 17th meeting.
Please come, tell your friends. We want the input. We want to know what the community is saying.
I'm hearing it from a lot of, especially on the tennis side, a lot of the parents are talking about this where we play clinics at and what have you, so I'll encourage them to come on the 17th. Thank you.
Thank you. Will it make you happy? Will it make you happy?
I genuinely am a happy person. Just real quick, my youngest daughter goes to William Penn. We'd like to see a permanent principal there. I think it would be the benefit of all the kids to not have a shared principal. I think the kids and the teachers would appreciate a permanent principal.
I will tell you, we are going to maintain that status through the end of the school year. We made that determination at the point in time when we had the
maybe
changeover.
reevaluate it for the next school year.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Brenda Pacor, 3224 Arapahoe Road. I'd also like to address the teacher's contract. And no, it hasn't been on the agenda. It won't be on the agenda, if I'm correct, until there is a contract to be signed. You can't go item by item and put them on the agenda, even though I would like that. I'm one of the constituents in this district as well. It was agreed upon by both the school board and administration and the teachers union that contract negotiation would not be done in public. I'm not sure that you can go back. I'm sure that actually you probably can go back and rescind that if that's an agreement that everyone would like to. But I'd also like to remind people that a lot of misinformation has been put out to the public, and some of that came from constituents at public meetings that was false information put out to the public. So it's probably a good thing that that's not allowed to go on in this forum. People, of course, can write any letter to the editor, and those who have been around a while know what to take with a grain of salt and what not to. Right now, our students have, throughout the year, have been under, and parents under pressure, wondering whether or not the teachers are going to walk out on them again, as they did last year for 6 weeks. Trust was greatly harmed by that choice made by the union. And I've seen nothing personally by the union to bring that trust back into this district. And I've spoken here at this mic, and I'm going to remind you again that I hope you will never give retroactive pay to any contract group, any union, that walks out on the job, especially when they walk out on the job for 6 weeks. So there should be no retroactive pay coming to the Federation from what they did to this community and the students last year. In addition,
Ms. Spacer, it's 2 minutes. Could you wrap up, please?
To wrap up, I will remind you that while I don't think that teachers or any union should get retroactive pay if they're not willing to settle a contract, I'll point out that they are still getting nearly free health care. They're not paying additional into that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll move into board comments, and I'm down at this end this time. Mr. Means.
Well, I think the most interesting thing going on is the lights on the field, and I'd just like to thank Mr. Sustich for all the work and research he's doing into that, and hopefully we can start to make some progress on that later next month.
Thank you. Mr. Spacuzza, sharing the mic.
Actually, I really don't have a lot to say tonight, so thank you all for attending.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Buckley.
Thank you, Mrs. Cook. I would just like to say that I very much enjoyed the presentation that Mrs. Rose made for the last time this evening. And ladies, good luck on your adventures next month. I very much look forward to the folks from IMS coming to do another presentation for Bring a Smile to a Soldier. I have to say that I truly was touched by what those children and the teachers involved, Mrs. Mako and Ms. Conklin, are doing. And I think once you folks see it, you'll want to get involved in it. And also another meeting, mark your calendars, please, for Wednesday, April the 4th. We'll be having a curriculum meeting from 7 until 9 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add one thing real quick?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to congratulate Mr. Howard and Mr. Garvey on their new contracts.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Mr. Rose.
Evidently, I have to quit talking to possible new board members if there's only one meeting a month. I accomplished two things the other night. I went to the new high school auditorium and witnessed the induction of 100 students into the National Honor Society, and it's always a moving experience to see that many fine young men and women get rewarded for their academic achievements. The second thing I did that night is I sat up in the back of the auditorium, and most people that know me know I have a hearing problem, and the acoustics in that room were absolutely fantastic. With just the microphone and normal sound system on, I could hear and understand everything that was said by all the speakers. So it really is a nice job. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Rule.
Well, my report again has to do with Still Center. They are definitely laying the foundation to make sure that they are one of the next schools to be able to implement their vocational ed program, which will lead into a community college and then a college degree within 3 years for $15,000. They are very serious of being a contender for that program. We met and we formed a personnel committee, and this Monday we appointed 3 people to become principals of the school, as well as directors in certain functions, which will enable that school to really customize and provide specific training as we go forward. So you're going to be hearing a lot of the initiatives that they're putting forward. The new director just isn't wasting any time, and we're having all these extra meetings and getting all the people in place so that by June 1st we're going to be ready to roll on some new things.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Sustich.
I'll keep it nice and short. Just remember April 17th for the Facilities Committee. And I am looking forward to the smokestack coming down. I want to see this, because I guess we're not going to put the 10,000 pounds of dynamite and blow it up like they do on TV.
Dr. Campbell.
You know, as a new board member, I'm still in the steep part of the learning curve. I've learned so much in just a short period of time, and I'm so impressed with, I want to compliment my fellow board members, it's just that the bright, articulate people they really are, and how they truly hold the students' interest at heart for a quality of education, good quality education. I'm impressed with our teachers. I'm impressed with our administrators across the board. I consider myself very fortunate to be in this room. More importantly, I'm encouraged to see more folks here than we usually do. Sometimes at our board meetings, we don't see a lot of folks, and that's sad. That's sad. We should be much more involved in our community. We heard opposing positions on a lot of dialogue that was made place with some members from the public. That should be welcomed and encouraged, and encourage that dialogue. We need to hear all aspects of, quote, our constituency, and to really know where to go, what directions to do. We have our own insights, and everybody here brings something different to the table. Let's use that. Let's capitalize on that. So I think it's a dynamic meeting when we have a lot of folks come and speak to us, and I'd certainly encourage you to bring your friends and invite that dialogue. That's necessary.
Thank you. Mr. Amiditz.
I'm just going to say I agree with Dr. Campbell's inputs and opinion on the more people we get to the microphone, the better ideas that can be generated. And so speaking with that in mind, I, again, as our other board members, look forward to the meeting that's coming up this April to talk about the proposed lighting up on the new fields, and I'm sure we're going to hear a lot of different viewpoints on that, but I want to get all the information in and look at all of our information so we can make an appropriate decision that's best for the community. And other than that, just congratulations to our administrators and their new positions, the new contract signed, and our new principal this evening that we hired. They have a lot to offer, and I look forward to seeing all they're going to accomplish in the district.
Thank you, sir. They steal all my thunder. I never can sum it up as well as they all do. And I thank all of them for all of their continued efforts and added meetings, as Mr. Rose said, many more than 2 a month. Many more, correct, Dr. Campbell? More
Absolutely.
than 2 a month. Matt, thank you for signing a contract under the terms and conditions of the same contract that you are under. So that's quite a nice belt-tightening measure at this point in time from our one of our chief administrators. Congratulations, Mr. Garvey, and welcome aboard. I think you have some fantastic ideas, and run with them, both of you. Terrific. Also, I thank Mr. Wells for stepping up and helping us out to take on that assistant principal job while Cheryl is off. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
Move adjourn.
Second.
Good night, everyone.
All in favor, aye.